Traditional mesh nets obviously been used for 100, 150 years. Plant and Food Research had discovered through the work they'd been doing, sort of was saying, well, why do we have to do it the way we used to do it? So they decided to look at how we can tailor the environment to actually the physiological parameters of the fish and create a better way of catching it.
Why do we have to strain these fish out? Why do we have to exercise and exhaust them? Why do we have to damage them? You know, people haven't fished for 150 years with these methods for nothing, you know. And the more we looked into it, the more we found that there weren't any real good reasons as to why we couldn't fit the in-trawl conditions to the animal.
The original concept for precision seafood harvesting was developed by Plant and Food Research. At that point in time, they then brought it forward, and 3 of New Zealand's leading seafood companies, Sealord Group, Sanford and Moana, joined together and co-funded what was called a Primary Growth Partnership Program with the Ministry for Primary Industries to develop the technology and take it through to commercial use. So what the scientists came up with in the concept was to create a series of modules that actually take the flow down from trawling speed to almost static at the end. Some of them are semi-porous, they contain apertures that allow the water to escape and therefore reducing the flow, but at the same time also allow fish to escape in the process. So by bringing the flow down to almost zero, we have a low flow, low turbulent environment, meaning the fish can regain control, individualise and look after themselves. So by having the fish come on board in a much better state, it allows them to process much more of that product through to the premium product end of the cascade.
When you control the harvesting process and you control fatigue and damage and exterior damage, you actually start to see how beautiful and stunning these animals are. Fish such as trevally, which are very active during the harvest process and tend to be undervalued because of the limited options we have for catching them. And so one of the objectives is to make sure that any animal that does actually reach the surface, if we can't select it out in the gear, is actually delivered back to the sea, basically unharmed.
Because the cod end, as it is, the modular harvesting system is a series of membranes, it doesn't tend to attract the same level of seabird interaction because they can't access it as easily as they can with a mesh net, so we're seeing reduced interactions. And one of the other really cool things which PSH is looking to develop now moving forward is that we're developing a mechanism in which to release the MHS at depth. So where we have interactions with marine mammals or other protected species, where we detect them in the net, we are building the ability now to be able to open the net at depth and allow those animals to escape. Some of the spillover benefits we've found from the technology has been that because the fish remain alive at depth, you can keep the net at depth and tow for longer periods of time. So therefore it allows crew longer periods of rest because they're not having to be involved with actively taking the gear up and putting it back down again.
When you realise that you can design highly selective trawl, you're winning in many different ways. You're winning in unexplored properties, values that we haven't realised. You're producing a humane harvesting system so that the animals win. And we're giving a hell of a lot of control back to the processor and to the fisherman.
So it was a great success through the program. We got to the stage of having developed the net approved for commercial use by the regulators here in New Zealand. We want to build on that in terms of some sensing technologies to accompany the gear, and then the other component of it now, the big component really is around looking at the benefits, so doing further work. We're just about to enter into a new 3-year research and development program which will quantify the benefits around selectivity, survivability and quality, and then the big part of that also then is around the commercialisation of the technologies both here in Aotearoa and internationally. And indeed on that score we've already undertaken our first international trial in the Netherlands with the beam trawl in a flatfish fishery, so they're looking at the prospects there, particularly around the survivability of the catch and the bycatch problem they have.
So it was actually, New Zealand science in action, and I think the industry partners really have to be given a major pat on the back and chosen to sort of embrace change and bring fishing into the 21st century.